Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's session on researching in Lancashire with the Society of Genealogists and guests. Our first speaker today is Elsa Churchill, and she's going to talk about the Society of Genealogists collections for Lancashire. And Elsa is the genealogist at the Society of Genealogists, and she teaches regularly in the SOG's education programme, as well as at overseas events and conferences, focusing on genealogy before 1837. Over to you, Elsa.
Well, thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome all our attendees to this collaboration between the Society of Genealogists, the Liverpool and South West Lancashire Family History Society, the Manchester and Lancashire Family History Society, Lancashire Archives and Liverpool Archives, who are all here to help us learn about family history resources for Lancashire. We'll also be learning how a vision of Britain through time and the Victoria County histories can help us research in this wonderful county. But it's my opportunity to talk about the resources at the Society of Genealogists. That for those attending, there will be a copy of my slides made available. I have got quite a lot to pack in, so forgive me if I do speak a little quickly. The Society of Genealogists is the oldest and largest genealogical member society in the UK, and we seek to create a working genealogical research hub at our premises in Wharf Road in London. We've been open there now for 2 years, but we're only just settling in. The Library and Archive team really concentrates on collecting resources relating to sort of how you do genealogy, of course, with textbooks, guides, journals and periodicals, for example. We look to see what resources there are for what your ancestors did in their lives by collecting occupational records, material relating to education, apprenticeship, military service records, tax records, criminal records, poor law records, access to newspapers and trade directories, church court records, tombstones, etc., etc. We very much encourage people to write up their family history, and we collect what's been done before by collecting compiled family histories and pedigrees, genealogy research notes and papers. And of course, we obtain copies of records relating to where your ancestors lived. That's for the UK and overseas, but particularly looking at indexes and finding aids, copies and transcripts of vital records of birth, marriage and death, church baptisms, marriages and burials, censuses, directories, and all other local records which are name-rich and can help us research our family history. And these subject areas can be found in the library amongst our library of books, electronic and micromedia, both on and off the shelves, which means you need to use our own library catalogue, SOGCAT, to identify what we have. But as we're a Family Search affiliate partner, the Family Search catalogue can be very useful to identify sources that you can view at the Society. We do act as an archive. We do have copies of original manuscript documents, as well as many research papers and notes amongst our special collections and our pedigrees, all of which are currently stored off-site. So you would have to use the PDF lists on our website listing our archive resources, and I'll show you how you can find those. And we make some of our collections available online onto SOG Explore in our digital collections from original records, indexes, databases, and digitized books from the library available to our members. Not everything we have is online, and of course this talk will make clear what you need to come to do to view at the library archive, or you can see online. That does mean that information on our website, sog.org.uk, is really important to sort of get a feel of what we have. So do have a look at the research pages of the website, which will tell you how to access our collections and visit the library if needed. It's not necessary to pre-book your visit, but if you are travelling a long distance and would like to reserve, for example, a library computer, it's a good idea to pre-book. And there's information on how to do that, and all the information about finding us on the website. There's no one database or catalogue lists everything we have at the Society. So the research pages link to our library resources, which are listed on the library catalogue SOGCAT. It links to our archive resource finding aids, where you'll find the scanned copy of our old paper archive finding aids. And it also links to the what we do make available online to SOG members via SOG Explore. But there you'll also find the online subject guides to a more depth guide to what we have in the library, and a very useful overview, the Researcher Handbook, giving you an idea of what there is. And for those who cannot personally visit the Society's premises in Wharf Road, the library pages have information about our limited search copy service and guidance on employing a professional researcher to come to the library if that is appropriate. Of course, not all of the library holdings are on site in the open shelves at our building in Wharf Road. Some are held off-site, and therefore you'll need to complete the pre-order form for us to bring it in for you to use when you visit the library. So hence the library catalogue is vital to find out what you're looking for, as Subcat will show you the location, box number, physical description, etc. of everything which is a book, film or microfilm that we have. The catalogue doesn't contain the records of individual people themselves or have the item itself online. It will tell you what we have and where it is. So this relates to books, micromedia, etc. While you can use the drop-down search menu to do more sophisticated, advanced or simple keyword searches of the catalogue, the default search uses the catalogue's browse by subject search, and a good way to start is to put in the name of a place where your ancestors come from to see what resources we might hold. Many genealogists know that sources are very much associated with localities and places, but you can change the default search form subject to author, title, publisher, etc. if required. The SOG groups everything according to the pre-1974 county boundary changes in England and Wales, and therefore we still retain those pre-74 county and parish names in the catalogues and finding aids, very much as they were when our ancestors lived there. Lancashire is that ceremonial county in northwest England, bordered by Cumbria to the north, North Yorkshire and West Yorkshire to the east, Greater Manchester and Merseyside to the south, and the Irish Sea to the west. The largest settlement in the county is the city of Preston. Preston and Blackburn are located near the centre, Burnley to the east, and seaside resort of Blackpool on the Irish coast to the west. You know what I'm talking about. Since the Victoria era, Lancashire has had multiple reforms of local government, and so effectively we ignore all those changes, and in our library they all remain Lancashire. And by place, it's usually the parish where your ancestor lived. So we tend to use the IHGS parish maps as published in the Fillmore Atlas as our guide for parishes, but other administrative units such as registration districts or hundreds can be a useful search term to use. And of course, the smaller chapelries within the large ancient parishes in the county are listed too. So a typical county holding within our collection will include published material, transcripts and index of records, as well as surrogate copies of original records, such as microfilm and microfiche. On the open county shelves, you'll find general items covering the whole county for all Lancashire, and this might be, for example, county histories, compiled pedigrees for the county, published genealogies, or even tax lists like half tax, will indexes, finding aids to records. I'll come back to will indexes later on. Local items for specific places, such with the shelf mark LALOC, will be things like local histories, parish chest records such as rate books, local quarter sessions, borough records, town records, apprenticeships, everything except for church registers. So on the LALOC shelf mark, there's over 1,600 items, which does mean Lancashire is one of the bigger sections of our open access shelves in the library. Everything else apart from general and local is off-site. So church registers, those copies and transcripts and indexes and finding aids relating to the church registers for the county, are all listed in the catalogue. They would have the classification LA/R, and in fact there's over 1,400 items for Lancashire registers in our collection. This includes Church of England, christenings, marriages and burials, records for nonconformists and other denominations. We have a large number of monumental inscriptions from churchyards and cemeteries. That's under LA/MI. We have over 400 items for Lancashire, and those include many published by the various local family history societies, or indeed transcribed by our members. All the bound parish registers and monumental inscription transcripts formerly on the open Lancashire shelves in our previous buildings have actually now been scanned and are made available as searchable PDFs to view in our library as a means of conserving space. And we actually have a pilot project at the moment uploading MIs onto our online members platform, SOG Explore. We've added a few for Lancashire, but we've got quite a lot more to be added. So do keep an eye on what we upload to SOG Explore in the future. So as I say, the offsite store holds things like census indexes, directories, poll books, and periodicals. Those are all kind of things that have to be ordered in. So using place terms within Lancashire, you can see there'll be a place term for a parish or a registration district or an ecclesiastical court, chapelries, hundreds, etc. And so the catalogue suggests that there are 58 items for Ashton-under-Lyne, which notice it's also a registration district, and that the town contains two it's explicitly named parishes of St Michael and St Peter. For Bake-Up, for example, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, there are 36 items, including microfilms of original parish registers, transcripts of church registers, a lot of nonconformist and Catholic material, monumental inscriptions, local histories, lay subsidy tax records, maps, directories, and transcriptions of local war memorials. In addition to library access to the major genealogy websites, Ancestry, Find My Past, The Genealogist, My Heritage, etc., the Society of Genealogists is also a family search partner, i.e. an affiliate library, with the records which the Family Search have scanned and digitised and listed in the Family Search catalogue can usually be viewed at the Society's premises. Increasingly, Family Search full text is making previously unindexed or minimally indexed items accessible from the catalogue of viewer by effectively putting AI over them. So here you might find things like church records, land tax, manor court rolls, etc. And Family Search, for example, has a transcription of the manor court rolls of Turton in Lancashire, which, when you view at the Society, have a transcription, though it's beautifully printed, so it's not not a difficult transcription to make in that case. In addition to parish records and monumental inscriptions, as I said, we collect what we call local items, comprising sources for specific places, such as local histories, war biographies, parish chest records other than registers. And there may be church wardens' accounts, settlement certificates, vaccinations, for example. You know, we have things as varied as the Liverpool town books, published items, or an indexed and transcription of the poor Catholic recipients of the Casey's charity in Manchester, or the Kirby vestry book, for example. So moving away from a specific place, you could think about the county as a whole. And we have searches in the catalogue you can make, which are called sort of Lancashire General, offering you some kind of structured searches. For these can range for things from Lancashire accountants to yeomen. And again, this is where you'll find bibliographies, guides to research in the county, county histories, will indexes, visitation, heraldic visitations, etc. Anything that covers the whole county. Of course, we've got a lot of general histories, such as the Victoria County Histories, and of course, copies of Bain's Histories of Lancashire. A lot of work has been done to sort of record pedigrees for Lancashire and Cheshire families, such as the work of Frank Charles Beasley. He died in April 1931, and he was a fellow and one of the founders of the Society. He was an ardent genealogist and had a wide knowledge of the records relating to Lancashire and Cheshire. His most useful publications are perhaps the calendar of monumental inscriptions and wills containing books relating to Lancashire and Cheshire, which formed volume 76 of the publications of the Record Society of Lancashire and Cheshire. And much of his work will be found in the transactions of Historic Society of Lancashire and Cheshire. But we have some of his working papers, notes and compiled pedigrees for Lancashire and Cheshire families, bound volumes of manuscripts that he called Collectania, and he also donated many items to the library relating to Lancashire. So here, for example, Beasley's notes and pedigrees. Not all of his notes and pedigrees, I'm afraid, are that tidy. And lots of transcription of other local pedigrees that he came across. We have actually digitized his work, Lancashire and Cheshire local pedigrees, and put it online for our members as one of the digitized books from the library that you can find on SOG Explore. We don't always catalogue all the surnames represented in all the books on our shelves. However, George Marshall's The Genealogist's Guide does index many thousands of narrative pedigrees, and his work, available readily online and of course available to members on SOG Explore, does indicate that there is genealogical information on the family of Burley, for example, in Joseph Foster's Lancashire Pedigrees, and also in Abram's History of Blackburn, both of which we hold in the library. And there's the fold-out pedigree from the Burley family, uh, from Foster's Lancashire pedigrees. We do encourage people to write up their family history, and we have thousands of compiled family histories, all of which are listed in the library catalogue. And you can search by surname to see if there's a single family history that might have been written about a family that you're interested in. These are all currently being scanned to view and therefore not on the open shelves. So it would either have to be ordered in to view a PDF if it's been scanned, and hopefully we'll have these online in due course. The Society of Genealogists will, of course, have all the indexes and finding aids to establish if a will exists, along with abstracts and copies in a document collection, or copies of wills which might have been digitised by Family Search and viewable at the SOG. And of course, there are many abstracts of Lancashire and Cheshire wills within Beasley's notes and his collections. The county is served by some very active and flourishing local record and family history societies, as we'll hear from our later talks. And of course, the Society of Genealogists has the local Family History Society journals, including those from Liverpool and South West Lancashire, Manchester, etc., etc. And of course, the local Record Society publications of the very active record societies serving the county. Moving on from our books to our manuscripts collection in the archives, the archive finding aids and descriptions of our small collections, our special collections, and our document and topographical collections can be found on the research pages of the website. The topographical collection contains about 150 boxes of sort of miscellany, which are quite interesting, of sort of bits and pieces that the Society has acquired and listed county by county, place by place. You wouldn't expect many original records to be deposited with us, but some are. And indeed, they could be ranged from copies of deeds and mortgages, etc., or sometimes they're transcribed, but sometimes we will end up with original documents. Often come to us when a solicitor has cleared their old deed boxes, for example, and these have been passed on to us. And so you'll find on the archive finding aids the description of the topographical collection and the list of what's in each of the Lancashire folders in the Lancashire boxes. These special collections are often the compilation of family historians, their research notes and family papers, for example, and there are a number of special collections which do have people's research notes on Lancashire families. The Society is actually undertaking a review and recataloguing of our archive collections, intending to replace those old paper collection lists and reports which are scanned and available on the archive resources of the website. And while the new Collections Plus catalogue can only be used by back office staff at present, it does enable me to search across the catalogue collections for item of Lancashire interest. And we've catalogued over 190 collections out of about 7,000 boxes, for example, of papers that contain information for Lancashire families, such as the Bethel special collection comprising the research papers of Dr. David Percival Bethel, looking at the Bethels of Lancashire. Because they were so often large, drawn up by hand on huge pieces of paper, the manuscript pedigrees held in the archives of the Society were literally rolled and put on the shelves in our old store, as you can see from the picture on the left there. In 2007, our volunteers undertook the mammoth task of transferring thousands of these rolls into about 350 proper archive boxes, which are now held safely off-site. Currently, they've been scanned and are being indexed and uploaded onto SOG Explore for our members. And we've got something like about 9,000 sets of pedigrees with about 20,000 sheets within them, with well over 1 million names recorded in them. For the public, through the archive finding aids, you can find an inventory, a spreadsheet listing the pedigrees, and there are over 100 pedigrees expressly looking at Lancashire families. All the roll pedigrees have been listed in our Collections Plus platform, and we use this platform to upload scanned images where appropriate to SOG Explore for members to view at home. And again, I can see all the pedigrees that relate to Lancashire by searching across those, and then they are indexed by name onto SOG Explore for members to view. And here, for example, it says that points out that tree for the Burleys of Kirkham in Lancashire, and I can click on it. It's not a very easy to read pedigree, but if you click on the image from SOG Explore, it will open up what we call tree search, where you can see that all the names have been indexed. Although I've chopped off the index panel, that was very clever of me. And you can navigate through the pedigree and expand and go into it, even if it's a rather faint pencil drawn one as it is there. Elements from the library and archives are being made available to members of the Society of Genealogists on SOG Explore. That's where we actually put digitised items from the library and archive. Not everything's online yet. And there are over sort of 30 express data sets relating to Lancashire, which you can identify by using the A to Z of records and searching for Lancashire to see quite a variety of things that we hold. Lancashire is quite well covered by Boyd's Marriage Index, for example. About 30% of the county is covered by Boyd's Marriage Index, and that's online, and that will cover Lancashire as well. So a quick look at things which we have on SOG Explore in the last couple of minutes. As I said, we have a transcript and index to Catholics in receipt of the Casey's Charity in Manchester from 1794 to 1847. So we've indexed that and put that online. And that will take you back to the transcripts in the library. Some MIs have been uploaded, but not a lot for Lancashire yet, because we're still working on it. That's a typical thing. That's for a Cheshire one there, just to see the transcript and the pages of the transcription will be up there. Some parish registers, again, not all the registers that we've transcribed are uploaded yet, but they will come in due course. Books from the library, such as the extracts from Stray Marriages in Manchester Cathedral, which was published in the 19th century. This is something from the library that we've digitised and put online. Our members have a project, virtually almost completed a project to index all the names in the large collection of poll books that we hold. So, for example, you can view the copies of the Liverpool poll books from 1806, and they're all indexed by name and searchable on SOG Explore. One of our members has been transcribing 17th century records such as the protestation returns for Lancashire, and again those are indexed on SOG Explore, done by Cliff Webb. And of course, you can search across indexes and finding aids across data sets that cover the whole country, not just Lancashire. So, for example, you can search for Burleys in Lancashire and find that they're represented in things like our Apprentices Great Britain Index, a lot of miscellaneous notes in what we call the Great Card Index, which is being added to SOG Explore. So here, for example, Richard Burley was apprenticed as a linen weaver in 1784 to James Parkinson in Pemberton in Lancashire. And that's taken from the tax levied on apprenticeships between 1710 to 1810. The Great Card Index is a bit of a miscellany. It's very much a sort of general notes and things found by our members. It has over 3 million entries in these slips, and we are gradually adding those slips to SOG Explore. And so, for example, there's some entries relating to Janet Burley and her marriage in Blackburn, or notes on witnesses to wills in the PCC from Robert Burley witnessing a will in 1649. So that's very much a whistle-stop idea of some of the things we have at the Society, from our library, archives, and things that we have put online expressly for our members. If you are interested in becoming a member of the Society, if you're not already, then there is information on how to join and become a member. We have two classifications of members. We have a standard and we have gold. And again, all the information on what benefits you get from membership, etc., and the charges can be found on the SOG website. We've got a lot for Lancashire. It's a wonderful place to research, and I think you'd be surprised at just how much you can do at the Society's library. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
Thank you very much, Elsa. There's some questions in the chat, but I don't think they are specifically for you, although there is one, but that's not pertinent to Lancashire. So I think I'll leave you to answer that in the chat. So I'll just pause the recording. Our next speaker this afternoon is Susan Atkins from Liverpool and South West Lancashire Family History Society. Susan has been the chair since 2021, but has been researching her family history since the late 1970s, when obviously she was just 1 year old. Okay, over to you then, Susan.
I wish. Thank you, Mary. Right, thanks to the Society of Genealogists for this opportunity to speak to everybody. During this presentation, I'll explain who we are, excuse me, my voice is going, what we do and the benefits of membership. Right, first of all, this is a map of the area that we cover, which is basically the old 100 of Lancashire, which is called West Derby. And before all the changes, it was part of Lancashire, Liverpool was, as the title of our society suggests. And this is a very old map from 1610, which shows the 100 of West Derby. And within the West Derby 100 are the parishes of Altcar, Halsall, Orton, North Meals, Childwall, Huyton, Liverpool, Walton, Sefton, Warrington, Wigan, Prescott, Winwick, Ormskirk and Lee. I mean, it's a long list. Right, well, the aims of the Society are to encourage the study of family history, assist each other, education, programme of lectures and visits and activities, projects, and to connect members with other societies through the Family History Federation. I'll explain all this as I go along. What we offer members. The Society is run by volunteers who are all amateur family historians. We're like-minded people who are interested in researching family history. We are also interested in learning about the social history of the area and its people. Liverpool is certainly rich in social history. There is a lot of local knowledge within the membership, plus awareness of the records of Lancashire Archives, which Lauren will be talking about a little later. No problem is too big or small. Benefits of membership. A quarterly journal, which is very well written, with excellent articles, advice, and about the people, businesses, and events that made Liverpool and South West Lancashire what it is today. According to, depending on the membership, you get a digital copy or you get a physical copy. The current membership year runs from 1st of January to 31st December. And at the moment, it's £10 for a digital journey for anyone. That doesn't matter where a person lives. And for a physical journal, in order to cover the cost of postage, UK membership is £20 and overseas membership is £28. Back copies are available in the members area of the website, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the 11 Zoom meetings a year are held for members. And I'll also talk about that again in a minute. I apologise if I'm talking fast, but I've only got a limited time. We also hold help desks for anybody who needs help on a regular basis in some of the Liverpool libraries. Main one is in Liverpool, on the third floor of Liverpool Central Library between 1 and 3:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, where the library computers have access to Ancestry and Find My Past, and it is also a family search affiliate library like the SOG. We have designated computers for our help desk, and we regularly have 6+ volunteers to help people. No booking is needed. We have a signing in system where everyone is taken in order of signing in. Everyone who signs in gets help. This also helps the archive staff because they know that they can refer family history queries to us. There is no charge. I apologise, my phone was going off. There's also help desks in other places around the area. Warrington have a help desk on a Saturday morning in Warrington Library. It's between 10 and 12. And the dates are the 21st of March, 25th of April, 23rd of May, and so on through the year. I think it's the 4th Saturday of the month. For further information, you can email Warrington Group at direct, or you can check the website because the website is kept updated. There is also help desks at Crosby Library on the 1st and 3rd Friday, but places must be pre-booked via the library. And likewise, there's a help desk at McGill Library on a Thursday, but you'd need to contact the library for further information on that. Right, networking and education. We have groups in Liverpool, Skelmersdale, Southport, Warrington and Wisnes who all hold physical meetings once a month. Members can attend any of the groups and some attend more than one. Full details of where, when and the topics are on the website again. And there is a handout which the Society of Genealogists will be sending out afterwards, which has got the website address on it. The Zoom meetings. Right, then we hold 11 Zoom meetings a year, which are only open to members. So it doesn't matter where in the world that you live. One of the positive things that's come out of COVID, some Zoom talks held over the last 12 months include a sharp jab, which was a brief history of vaccinations, Bravo November, which was a very interesting talk about a plane, and a member did a talk about a tragedy in her family. And a couple of the future talks by Zoom is about family search, where a fellow called Darius Williams is going to do the talk, who's a member of the Mormon Church, and also a talk about the story of the whole country, these isles, the story of England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland. Again, the details on the website. The majority of Zoom talks are recorded with the speaker's permission for those who are unable to attend or who want to catch up later. The recordings are available only in the members only area, the website. And talking about that, they also in the members only area of the website are back issues of journal, members interest database where you can check whether there's any members who are also doing the same family as you are. Various downloads, including a welcome pack booklet, which gives some basic information about who we are, what we do, and also some basic research information. The 1832 poll book of Liverpool, and also the Auxiliary Fire Service War Heroes Conflicts database as well. We have a lively Facebook group where any queries anyone has are answered, or on occasions inquiries are made to find the answer. We also publicize local events on the Facebook group. Information about different sources, particularly in Liverpool, is also posted. Again, no problem is too big or small. Everyone will do their best to help. And the Facebook group website is again listed on the handout that will be sent out after. The Society also holds an annual conference once a year, and as this is our 50th year, this year it is actually being held in Penketh near Warrington on the 10th of October. And as a one-off, it's going to be free to our members as part of the celebrations of our anniversary. And it's a good way to meet up with fellow historians, and there's also lots of interesting talks over the day. It's usually about 4 or 5 speakers about history and social history, and it's a very good day out. Another new venture that we've just started is an email newsletter which comes out in between the journals, and it gives it extra information about what's going on within the society, what we're doing, and anything else that might be going on that has missed the publication date of the journal usually. Other events, in addition to what I've previously mentioned, we also attend local fairs. In 2026, this includes Rural History and Heritage Fair at Port Sunlight on the 21st of March, which I think is next Saturday. In 2 weeks' time, there's a Family History Day at Manchester Central Library on the 28th of March. And on the 9th of May, there's a Family History Show at Aintree Racecourse. And we're going to be having stands at all 3 events. So we look forward to being able to talk to and help members and potential members at all these events. We work very closely with Liverpool Archives, who have some very unique records. You'll hear from their research officer, Lauren, in a minute. There is also a handout, as I mentioned earlier, which will be sent out to all attendees by the Society of Genealogists. If you have any further questions after this event, if you want to do with Liverpool and South West Lancashire, you can email me on chair@lswlfhs.org.uk. Again, my email address is in the handout. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And
it was a bit of a
yeah, no worries.
Breathless.
I will there was just one question in the chat, which is from me, so I will ask it because it's relevant.
Okay.
So how does Liverpool and South West Lancashire Family History Society relate to the Lancashire Family History and Heraldry Society? Are do they overlap?
No, we don't overlap with anybody.
Right.
We're our area is unique. The only society we overlap with is North Meals, which is near Southport.
Mm-hmm.
And Ormskirk, perhaps. They're the only societies that we actually technically slightly overlap with, but Manchester Family History and Heraldry Society, Lancashire Family History and Heraldry Society, and Manchester and Lancashire Family History Societies are 2 separate societies, and we don't actually have anything to do directly with Manchester.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And is Liverpool and South West Lancs part of the Federation of Family History Societies?
Yes.
Super. Thank you. Right. So I will pause the recording at that point. Thank you very much, Susan. Our third speaker is Lauren Lavery, and she's the Research Officer at Liverpool Record Office, which is based at Liverpool Cathedral Library and Archives. Over to you then, Lauren.
Well, thank you very much indeed for inviting me to this event today. I'm speaking to you, as you can imagine, from Liverpool Central Library, and I'm here today to talk to you about Liverpool Record Office and Archives and the record collections and resources that we have available to help support you with your family history. So obviously today is all about researching in Lancashire, and as mentioned in previous presentations, Liverpool was part of Lancashire, now part of Merseyside, but we have some fantastic records available for you to view and some really interesting things hopefully that we can share with you. So I'm going to be talking for about 15 minutes, and I'm going to cover what we have with our self-service resources. I'm going to talk about our search room and briefly describe how you can make a booking. I will talk to you about our record collections and provide a little bit more further information about how to get in touch. So, Liverpool Central Library Record Office and Archives, we are based here in William Brown Street, beautiful part of Liverpool, right between the Walker Gallery and the World Museum. We are based on the 3rd floor of the library. So when you walk into the atrium, you'll see 3-4 floors, and we're on the 3rd floor. And you will have access to the usual national indexes, the births, marriages and deaths, census records and deaths at sea, etc. So here we are. This is the 3rd floor, lots of space, lots of light, and this is where you can access our records without any help, although there's usually somebody on hand to give you some support if you need it. There's no booking required, and you can get hold of our catalogues. We've got hand lists, we've got physical catalogues, and you can also access these online as well. So here is just a little peek at our microfilm and microfiche area. We've got a really huge collection of records available to view, including street directories. We have parish registers, all the favourite things, cemetery records, the quarter sessions records. We've got calendars of prisoners, coroner's inquest registers, which are incredibly useful. We've got local newspapers. Many of these are already digitised on the British Newspaper Archive, but still there may also be a few gems in there that you can't get hold of. We have the census by address, and we also have workhouse registers.
It's only good. This one just started, effectively.
So on our 3rd floor of the archives, we have a large area which is available for you to bring your own computer or use the computers that we have in our service. And in our computer and workspace area on a Tuesday, you will find Sue with the Liverpool and South West Lancashire Family History Society, a wonderful team. We absolutely love them. They help us with some really tricky inquiries, and they're absolutely fantastic and welcoming. So please do come along on a Tuesday if you can, if you'd like to kickstart your family history, or if you want some guidance on where to go next. We have access to Ancestry, Find My Past. We have our CALM catalogue available, and also the British Newspaper Archive, which I've already previously mentioned. Just a quick top tip, because I know sometimes the websites can be quite difficult to navigate. I myself find myself clicking on lots of boxes, but if you would like to find the Liverpool digitised records available on Ancestry, if you go onto Ancestry, if you click on search, next click on keyword, and then follow up with Liverpool, type in Liverpool, this should generate all the records that have been digitised by Ancestry. This includes crew lists, parish records, we have electoral registers, and so many more records out there. So also on our 3rd floor, we have our self-service map area, including Ordnance Survey maps and street maps with lots of dates and scales. And you can have a look on the top of the plan chest, and there'll be guidance on how to navigate that. And again, members of staff are available to help access these maps. So we also have our, you can help yourself to these. We have categorized photocopies of our most popular photographs and small prints. These include aerial views, air raid and blitz photographs. We have 2 football clubs, not 1, but 2. We have dock pictures, all the different docks. We've got major streets, Lime Street, Bold Street, Duke Street, key buildings, St George's Hall. We've got parks, theatres. So if you come to our library, you can help yourself to a folder, sit down, have a little browse, see what we've got. We also have a really good collection of local history and family history research books. These are for reference only. You can't take these books out, but you can come and have a browse, and there might be other copies of these books available that you can take out of the library. If you were coming to visit us in our search room to look at some of our holdings that are not available, on the 3rd floor, you would need to make a booking. This is just a very quick view of our lovely, light, airy search room. It does get quite full, as you can imagine, and we do ask that you book a place. So it's by appointment only, and we ask for 3 days notice. This is just so we can make sure the records we have are available and that they've been brought to the right temperature, they've acclimatized to the environment. And the staff will provide the records, set them all up for you prior to your visit. So our repository, this is where we hold our records. Very briefly, a couple of pictures just to show you one aisle on the 3rd floor where we have 60 further aisles, and one aisle on our 1st floor where we have over 100 aisles of records. And this is replicated on 4 floors. So we have an awful lot of content. Within our repository, we have some fantastic record collections which will really help with family history. And these include photographs, we have maps and plans, watercolours, we have court and coroner's records, a really good Black history collection. We've got Rainhill Asylum records, LGBTQ collections, Catholic Immigration Society, Jewish archives, workhouses, hospitals, schools, and as you can imagine, the list goes on. So I'm going to just drill down into a few of our key collections so you have a bit more of an idea of what we can offer. So one of our main collections is our photographs and small prints. Lots of these can be viewed on our catalogue. If you did go on our catalogue and search, these have thumbnails so you can have a little look at some of them, have a little view. This collection contains thousands of images of Liverpool and the surrounding areas, and it's compiled from a variety of sources. Now, not all of these pictures are copyright Liverpool City Council, so we do have to be careful, but obviously they're available to view. The archive is indexed according to subjects, so we have collections of cinema pictures, monuments, parks and gardens, churches, streets, districts, anything and everything. And it is one of our most popular family history requests. It relates to, it's really useful if you found where somebody lived in one of the street directories. We might have pictures of the streets at the same time, pictures of the houses, the schools. So again, once you've narrowed your search down to a location, these pictures can be incredibly insightful and really help to illustrate your family history and bring it to life. Here's an example of a few of our pictures that we have. This is one of the docks. We do have colour photographs, but the ones that I've found, the really good ones tend to be the older ones, the black and white. This is a picture of St George's Hall, and you can see the tram lines, the different kind of lampposts, just the way the city looked at a time when your relatives may have walked these streets. And again, this is our beautiful Palm House at Sefton Park, pre-renovation, but we have a huge amount of pictures, so it's well worth having a look at those. We also have a collection of photographs in our City Engineers collection. This is really important archive, showing the work carried out by the City Engineers Department. There are over 158,383 images, and these date from 1897 to 1995. The collection is extremely valuable in mapping the growth of the city from beneath the streets. We've got pictures of the sewers being laid to the city skyline, and we also have major events charted as well. And here's some examples at the bottom of the court housing. We've got a view over St John's Garden, looking over towards the Queensway Tunnel, I think it is, and the Metropolitan. And here's some houses being built. And again, if you find somebody in your past was a builder, then, you know, these images are fantastic, really, really useful. We also have housing department pictures as well, showing the development of houses. So again, a few examples of our images of the city of Liverpool and the surrounding areas, construction pictures, and we have also, you know, trades, people who worked in different parts of the city doing different jobs, street cleaners, you know, sweepers, chimneys, all kinds, chimney sweeps, all kinds of pictures to illustrate your family history. So moving on now to maps and architecture. We have a huge collection of maps and plans. Again, resources place your family member in their locality, and they're very useful to research how the city has grown and changed over time. We have a really large collection of Ordnance Survey maps. Some of these you would need to book to come and view, and some of them are still under copyright, but again, we have a self-service option available. And we also have Liverpool street maps, a huge collection of over 500 maps from 1725 to the modern day, including the eyes map of 1765, the mortality map of typhus from 1865, and various tithe maps, which are, again, really useful to look at what was in a location and how it's changed. And also you can get the names and the rents as well. And we also have a collection of architects' drawings, building plans, and other illustrations of significant buildings, such as St George's Hall, cinemas, offices. The list really does go on. So here's an example. Well, here is the eyes map of Liverpool, 1765. And again, you know, the city started small, as all cities do, and grew and expanded. And you can see how the dock area is quite small, and now it stretches both ways by some miles. Here's an example of the mortality map of cholera. Again, if you know where your family lived, you can see what kind of area they lived in, whether it was highly affected by the disease. And we have here an example of one of our Ordnance Survey maps. So this map is 5 foot to 1 mile, and it shows the buildings in detail, including names of the courts and the roads. And here's another map just to show you the difference. This map is 10 foot to the mile, and it shows even more detail, and you'll get the names of what the buildings were, maybe, you know, the names of the courts again, but, you know, here we've got Methodist Chapel and a bit more detail. These are really fascinating to zoom in if you know the house number, especially of your relatives or ancestors. And here's just an example of one of our theatre plans for the Alexandra Theatre, if you were interested in this kind of thing. And we have some fantastic original drawings and elevations available to view. So we're nearly at the end of my presentation, but I just want to talk to you about a few other collections. One of these is our watercolours. Very fortunate to have a huge collection, including works from the 18th century onwards. We hold the Binns collection, the Herdman collection, and works by other local artists. And the reason I'm talking about watercolours is we recently had inquiries from family historians who have traced their ancestors' homes and workplaces to our 19th century Herdman watercolours. So they knew where they lived, they knew what their occupations were, they knew they owned a pawnbrokers, and we were able to find exactly where it was. Obviously, we're not going to have a photograph from that period, so this was a really good find for the inquirer. And here's an example. So you can see we have the shop names, the roads, and they're very well labelled as well. So if you have a specific place you're interested in, you can let us know and we can see what we've got. So coming near to the end, we just want to mention a couple more collections. One of these is our Children Sent to Canada from the Catholic Emigration Society. We have an index. So if you have a name of somebody who you believed emigrated or was sent to Canada, the turn of the 19th, 20th century, we have an index and we can find whether we have a case file for you or not. And more often than not, we will. So it's always worth contacting us to see what we have, because some of the files are very full and we have lots of information about the child, when they sailed, where they sailed from, and how they settled into their new lives. And the visitors' reports can be very interesting and give a really interesting viewpoint of the child. Whether it's accurate or fair or not, that's up to you to make a decision. We also have West Derby Union records, which are the poor law, including registers, names of the children in other institutions who were sent to Canada. And here's an example, one of our records digitised on Find My Past, and this is from Mill Road Hospital, because again, the hospitals and workhouses were interchangeable for a period of time. So you can find these online or you can get in contact with us. And the final collection I just want to touch on is one of our most valuable collections. And I know that Lancashire Archives, I think they have Whittingham Hospital, or I know there was Whittingham Hospital. We've got the Rainhill Asylum records. It's a very, very valuable collection, and it's not uncommon for people who are researching their family to discover that a relative once resided in the institution. Our records include useful indexes So we can do a quick search to see if we have a name of a person for you, and that can lead on to finding admissions papers, case books with medical notes. The information found may include a reason for a patient's admission, their notes, physical descriptions of the patients, and on occasion we do have photographs. These records are closed for 100 years, as are quite a few of the sensitive records in our collections, but you can get in contact with us to discuss access. So this is an example of one of the female patient case books, which would have information about their admission, how old they were, where they lived, who they were related to, and the reasons for their admission. Here's a lady called Elizabeth Skitz. She was female, 48, married, Church of England. She was at Fulwood Workhouse before she ended up in Rainhill. And here is a picture of Elizabeth with her medical notes. And the sensitivities around here are understandable because the language has very much moved on from this period of time. So I'd always err people on the side of caution when reading these kind of records to understand that the language is not something we would use today. And Elizabeth was my great-great-grandmother. And when I started working here, my dad asked if we could have a little look and see what we could find. And we were lucky enough to find some really fascinating records about her. So to summarise, if you're researching in Lancashire, please remember to access Liverpool Record Office and Archives. In addition to the collections mentioned already, we also have electoral registers. We have street directories, which we are hoping to get digitised at some point because these are fantastic resources. We have Liverpool worthies, so people who maybe were higher up in status, we might have some information about them or portraits. We have crew lists available on Ancestry, portraits of ships. So if you know of a ship or if you have an interest in maritime history, we've got a fantastic collection of portraits. We've got biographical news cuttings and hospital and school records. We have family papers, apprenticeship records, pedigrees, and all kinds of fantastic information available. So for further information, I won't bombard you, but you can find us quite easily by typing Liverpool Central Library into Google. There is also a website link here, and you'll have a menu where you can click on each section to find out a bit more. And here's our very valuable family history link. We have a website called Preservica. So if you type in Preservica Liverpool, you will be taken to our digital archive, and lots of our photographs and oral histories are already available to view, including our air raid records, which are fascinating. So feel free to join us on our website, explore our archives, records, rare books. And if you are not able to come into the archive in person, I am the dedicated research officer. It's my job to search records on your behalf. I can do a quick search for no charge, and anything that's a bit more lengthy, there is a fee, but you can get in contact with us via the website and we can have a conversation and see what we can do to support your research. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, there you go. Join us at Liverpool.
Thank you very much indeed, Lauren. I shall just stop the recording at that point. Thank you. So our next speaker now is Carol Lee from Manchester and Lancashire Family History Society. And Carol Lee is currently serving as the Speaker Secretary and Chair of Promotions and Education for the Society. She is a dedicated family and local historian who has turned a beloved hobby into a career she truly loves. With a deep curiosity for uncovering the past and a passion for storytelling, she's spent years researching family histories, bringing ancestors' lives to life and discovering their roots. Over to you then, Carol.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to join everybody, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this event. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Treasure Trove. I've called it Treasure Trove as it's just a little taste of the records that we hold. It is a quick tour. I was very torn what to show and what not to show. The Manchester and Lancashire Family History Society was founded in 1964, and it's now one of the largest family history societies in the UK. We were formerly based in Clayton House at Piccadilly in Manchester, and now we're located at Manchester Central Library. The Society does include sub-branches. We've got sub-branches in Bolton, Oldham, and we also have an Anglo-Scots sub-branch. We offer a varied yearly programme of talks and meetings. And as you can see on the left-hand side of the page, I'm advertising the Irish Research Day, which takes place tomorrow. That's 4 talks about Irish ancestors. You'll also notice my name pops up on there as well. And I'm also advertising the Manchester Lancashire Family History Society Fair, which is taking place on Saturday, the 28th of March. This is our 5th annual fair, so do please come along if you're in the area and would like to meet us in person. As you can see on the right-hand side, there are several other talks that are advertised. We actually specialise in indexing a wide range of resources in partnership with local and occasionally national archives, and we're supported by a very dedicated project team. As you can see from our homepage, we've got over 3.7 million records unique to ourselves. Today's session is just going to introduce that unique collection. Non-members can access a limited search area, while full members do receive access to hundreds of record sets and more than 37 million name references. So if you were starting to research online, if you go to our homepage, select research from along the top, we're going to have a look from the drop-down menu at the public resource area first, and that appears in the Find Out More column. So public resources takes you to this page. Now you can use quick links to navigate yourself around the website. As you can see on the left hand side, we've got quick links to Alan Godfrey Map Street indexes, we've got war memorials, we've got Zion letters. I have actually highlighted the Zion letters because I found these of great interest when we were approached. A lady approached us, asked us if we were interested in some letters that had been wrote by servicemen during the Great War. Most of the letters were wrote between 1914 and 15, but they do also cover the other years of the war. There's about 350 letters altogether by 70 different servicemen. Some of them are just one letter. Some servicemen wrote more than 20 letters, and they're all addressed to a Harry Hill. If I hadn't picked the public resources, if I'd decided that I just wanted to look at the database that's open to the public, I could have just selected the database search from the homepage. Now, you can search a variety of ways. You can put in a surname, you can put in a particular name, you can put in years, you can even choose exact matches. I'm going to just use the name Daniels for this example. I've not specified a period, I've not specified a first name, it's literally just the name Daniels. And by doing that, it's given me a total of 475 Catholic record indexes. It's given me 15 matches in the Manchester Genealogist Index, 6 matches in the Strays Index, and 53 matches in the War Memorials database. So let's have a look at what kind of records we might find in the public area. The Catholic Register Index can be searched by name, it can be searched by event type, and it can be searched by year. Again, I'm just going to stick with that surname of Daniels. And that's given me results of 475 people. Now, typical results will include things like the event, the name, the year, the church, and occasionally there'll be some additional details that are included. So, for example, the third one down on the list, Agnes Daniels, it tells me who her godmother was, as well as telling me what church it was at. Where it has in orange, it has more at the end of the column. That links to the next page on the right-hand side, which tells you where that Catholic record source has come from. Then they can access our Manchester Genealogist. Now, this is our magazine, the Society magazine. It was first published in 1965. A name and subject index are available in the public domain, where members can actually download the full collection of back issues, and they can either read them online or download them in PDF format in the member-only area. So as you can see on this page, you've literally surnaming of Daniels, you've got a search results of 15, it tells me what volume it's in, what page it's on, and what it's in relationship to. The strays index, now this one's quite an unusual one. We call it our MLFHS strays, and it's people that have been collected from microfiche collections. There's been additional contributions from various sources, including online submissions. Again, I've searched for Daniels, and as you can see below, it's listed at the Daniels that it's found as strays. And we find people perhaps in different areas who came from Manchester originally. So it tells us, for example, that we've got a Jeffrey Daniels who died in Canada, but originally he was from Horwich in Bolton.
Here you go.
Public database also has got an index of names for more than 1,000 war memorials, many of them which lie not just in Manchester but outside Manchester area as well. This time the search results have brought up 53. They are in alphabetical order on the left-hand side of the page. Anything that is in orange, if you click on it, if there's some other source that's linked to that record, it will bring it up. So in this case, I've selected Daniels again. I've selected J. Daniels. They're at Hollingworth, and it's brought up photographs of the War Memorial in Hollingworth. Not only one from a distance, but also each panel that is shown on that particular memorial. Now, each public domain page that we visit on the site also has a member login tab at the top. And we're going to look at the additional benefits that are available to our members. So this is the member login page. I can either log in using an email address or my membership number and my password. And once I've done that, it takes me to the members homepage. Now, this just provides an overview of all the available records and documents that I can look at. If I scroll down the page, I can also access those documents with quick links. So the page that you can see in front of you, the right-hand side is the bottom half of the page, the left-hand side is the top half of the page. So I can either go through the different records and select them from headings, or go to the bottom of the page and select the quick links to help me navigate the page easily. Now, we haven't got time to go through all the records, and this was where the difficulty was as to choose what to show and what not to show. I am going to go through some of the headings that you can see on the left-hand side of the page. And I'm going to start off with the Resource Library Catalogue. Now, the Resource Library Catalogue can be searched by title, author, or category. And then I can also filter it, and I can filter it by book, CD, fiche, or map. Now, this is an extensive collection, and it's actually held in Manchester Central Library next to our help desk on the ground floor, and any of these can be viewed on request. As a member, you've also got access to our memorial inscriptions. This database includes memorial inscriptions from numerous burial grounds. There is a list of burial grounds included at the bottom of the page, so you can see which locations are available. And once you've entered the details for your search, it brings up this kind of information. Now, as you can see from the top left-hand corner, it tells you that we've got memorial inscriptions for Bolton, Manchester, Oldham, Salford, etc. It's listed the Daniels that it's found below in the bottom left-hand corner. Anything that has a little orange camera image at the side of it, if you click on that image, it will bring up any record or document that it is available to view. It might be a photograph of an inscription, or it might be, like in this case, the actual burial record from the church where they were buried. So I brought up Abel Daniels, and it tells me that he was the son of David and Sarah. It tells me when he died and his age, but it also tells me that there were two brothers of his buried in the same grave, and it gives their names and details too. And then as a member, you've got access to our great database. Now, this is a huge database. There's over 300 data sets available, full list of which can be accessed by using the button at the bottom where it says list of data sets included. They're indexed by name, and it contains more than 1.4 million references. I've just used that surname Daniels again. I've only done the surname, and it tells me that there are 559 results in our records. And this includes all kinds of records. So I've just chosen two. One of them is policemen in Manchester, the index to enrolments, 1858 to 1918. And the other one is baptismal records of Cadishead Wesleyan Chapel. Other records include things like rate books, workhouse and poor law records, institutions, etc., etc. You can also search the 1851 unfilmed census. Now, again, this gives you the option of being able to search by surname. So I'm going to use Daniels, but I could also search by street name. So I've just put the search name in Daniels, and it tells me that there are 104 results. As you can see, they're listed alphabetical by the forename. Anyone that I wish to look at, if I go along to the right-hand column in orange and I click on that orange reference number, it will then take me to a more detailed page, and it will give me the address. It will give me everybody that's listed at that address and the usual information that you would expect to see from a census record. Occasionally, there is information missing because the census was damaged too much to be able to recover that information. But as you can see from this, this is quite a complete transcription. Now, the next one is one I've used a lot during my research. This is the 1934 Lancashire Street Atlas. And we can search this by street, city, or town. I've decided to look for Higher Cambridge Street in Manchester. This was an area that quite a few of my relatives could be found. And once I search, it brings up the map showing the street exactly that I want to look at. And Higher Cambridge Street is the first street in orange that goes from the top towards the bottom of the page on an angle, Higher Cambridge Street. So I can see exactly where it was, what surrounded it, whether there was any big buildings on there, etc. Now, this has been scanned through the efforts of many. It is only searchable in the members area. As I mentioned previously, the members do have access to all the back copies of the Manchester Genealogist. They can be looked at online, or they can be downloaded as a PDF format. You're going to get the same kind of search page up, so it tells me that there's 15 results again for the surname of Daniels. But this time, you probably noticed that the volume number has appeared in orange this time. And if I clicked on that orange volume number, it will bring that volume up on the screen, and I can search for the page I'm interested in. So this particular one was an Elizabeth Daniels, and she has committed bigamy. And it tells me she was 21 years of age. It happened in March 1841, and it tells me that she was sentenced for 6 months. And then we've got our members' document collection. Now, there are hundreds of documents in this area. I did debate whether to do a drop down of them, but I actually thought it makes it even harder then to choose what to talk about next. This contains a range of records from the 17th to the 20th century. They are from all our branches. You'll notice that in the document collection list, it mentions Bolton records, Oldham records, Anglo-Scots records. There are absolutely all sorts. There's biographies, there's Catholic records, there's family trees, there's records from institutions, etc. And I thought I would just give you a short sample of some that perhaps are a little bit more unusual, if you like. So, for example, this first box is Salford records. This is all the Salford motor vehicle registrations. It gives you the registration number. It tells you what the vehicle was. It gives you any other details that were available. So the first one on the list was registered to a Frederick W. Wheatcroft of Eaglefield House in Broughton. It was privately registered on the 1st of January 1904, and it was cancelled in 1909 and sold unregistered. The second one I chose was the abolition of slave trade. Now, this is a petition for the abolition of the slave trade dated 1807, and it consists of 71 pages. The first page gives a little bit of explanation about the slave trade abolition petition, and then it lists names of people that have signed that petition. Now, some of them, it may only give the first and last name of somebody. Others, it has addresses. Some have also their occupations. It's worth browsing through, particularly if it's popped up as one of your matches with a surname that you've searched for. You've then got your army deserters. Now, the army deserters are deserters that have been listed in the Police Gazette between 1828 and 1840. They're in alphabetical order from surname and Christian name. It will tell you the battalion that they were in. It will give you their age. It will give you when they went missing. It even sometimes gives you the occupation that they had before they joined the army. And then the last one that I picked was orphan certificates. Now, these are orphan birth, marriage and death certificates. They're certificates that members have purchased, discovered that they're wrong for the family that they've been looking for, and they've actually submitted them to us so that anybody can search them rather than purchase them. Now, our collections are always being added to. We've always got projects on the go. 3 recent additions that were added in January this year include Bellevue Prison records. You can see that there are 6,526 records for Bellevue Prison between 1871 and 1872. We also added 1,549 Manchester Corporation Transport staff records. And we also added 850 boys admitted to Gordon's Boys Home 1888 to 1892. Now, to show you an example of those, I actually chose one of the Manchester Corporation Transport records. And as you can see, you've got the record here. It shows you the name. It shows you what grade they were. So he was a driver. Tells you what depot they were based at. Tells you when they started with the company. So he started with the company on the 18th December 1902 and he resigned in June 2022. It even gives us information about the Supram Fund, when he joined it, what his account number was. It actually tells us that he was in arrears by £18 and 19 shillings. And it also told you how much he paid per week for that. Now, before I finish, I would be in serious trouble if I didn't mention our friendly help desk. The help desk is manned by volunteers. It operates Monday to Friday from 10:30 a.m. in the morning till 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And you can find them on the ground floor at Manchester Central Library. There's always someone there willing to help you find your ancestors. We've also got our online shop where you can purchase books, you can purchase CDs, ancestral files, maps, etc. I do hope you've enjoyed exploring this quick overview of our collections. I hope I've whet your appetite to search our records more, and I hope I've shown you the benefits of becoming a member as opposed to being just a public researcher. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Carol. That was very interesting. And that is just, I am a member, but I didn't know there was so much in it. So I'm delighted. Thank you. That's really handy. Let me just pause that recording just there. So thank you, everybody. And our next speaker is Victoria McCann. Vicky McCann is an archivist and engagement manager at Lancashire Archives and Local History, where she's worked since 2004. As a registered member of the Archives and Records Association, she has worked in business, higher education and local authority archive services. I'll hand over to you now then, Vicky. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the previous speakers as well, because yeah, it takes events like this, I think, to really remind us that how much is out there and what incredible resources people have across our county. Thank you for inviting me to come and talk today. I'm going to do sort of a very sort of broad overview in terms of the types of records that we have at Lancashire Archives and how they might be useful for family history. Listening to the other speakers and the Family History Societies in particular and the Society of Genealogists, always a fantastic place to start, because they really do have that kind of collection of records to sort of target your family history. What we have is quite broader. We'd have lots of things that do relate to family history, and they may be things that once you've done a certain amount of family history research, you would like to come to us to kind of find out more, to flesh out the story a little bit. The picture there is of our public search room. It hasn't actually changed that much. That's from about the 1980s, but it is a little bit bigger. But yeah, it doesn't really look that much different. So just by way of kind of background and to let you know who we are, as other speakers have said, Lancashire was a much bigger county, and thank you to Els for sort of clarifying that point. The historic county does still exist, but obviously we are in different administrative areas now. But that does mean that there is a huge amount of overlap between what we have and what you might find in Liverpool and Manchester. And you'd be surprised, actually, sometimes some of the things you'll still find at Lancashire Archives that relate to Manchester and Liverpool and Warrington and the Furness area. We were first established in 1940. And we're one of the oldest county archive services in the country. And we have sort of started off with the records of the Clerk of the Peace, but have expanded our collections hugely since then. The picture there is of Reginald Sharp-France, who was very instrumental in saving the records for Lancashire in 1940. We estimate that we have between 8 and 9 miles of shelving, if you put the shelving end to end, in 8 purpose-built strong rooms. Although we were opened in 1940, we had a lovely, gorgeous 1970s building, sort of part of Preston's modernist architecture, I think. But it was the first purpose-built archive repository outside of London. And was very much Sharp-France's legacy. As I said, we have 8 strong rooms. It was built with a capacity for 4 strong rooms, and then in the 1980s we had the new stack added. It's a huge amount of stuff. I agree with Lauren about Liverpool. It is, you know, when you see how much you have and how it's stored, it is incredible. And we do have off-site storage now as well. But it's only a tiny amount. It's only a fraction of all the records ever created. So it's worth bearing in mind when you're doing your research that there will always be gaps. Oh, and we also have a lot of terabytes of digital records now as well, which is increasing, I think, across the board. Our earliest document is from 1115, so our records go back 900 years. And they contain all sorts of incredible records relating to topography, to individuals, to society, to Lancashire's history and beyond. In terms of what we do, we still have on-site visits. People come in to see our records. We answer inquiries by email. And we also we produce a lot of documents, more documents than we used to, even though we don't necessarily have as many people coming in. But as you know, so much is available online, and with digital photography, people can kind of order a lot more and take photographs and do their research elsewhere. But we also get quite a quantity of online views, and I will talk a bit later about the resources that we have online for you to look at. So I'll talk about the records that we've got in sort of 4 broad categories. This is something that's fairly standard for a county archive service, wherever you are in the country. But I talk about them in these 4 broad categories because we still have a very lovely old book version of a guide to the records at Lancashire Archives, or Lancashire Record Office as we were. And in the contents, it sort of describes what we have in these 4 broad categories. So I think it's a really good way to kind of get an idea of the stuff that we have, and also kind of pull out things that are useful for family history research. So we're starting off with public records. So these are records of local hospitals, general hospitals, but also the county asylums, the Court of Quarter Sessions, coroners, shipping, enclosure records, and also National Coal Board, to name a few. So in terms of hospital records, the types of things that you will find will be staff records, the administrative records of the hospital itself. You might find wages books, staff changing books, and things like that. But in terms of patient records, for general hospitals, you might find some maternity ward registers, some outpatient registers, or some dental registers, things like that. But on the whole, the sort of general hospitals tend to be more about the administration of the hospital. And on rare occasions, you might find records relating to workhouses. A good one I can think of is Kirkham and Wesham Hospital, because a lot of the workhouses where they had an infirmary wing, it would have become a general hospital under the creation of the National Health Service in 1947. So, but apart from that, it is you don't get a lot of patient records. Where you do get patient records, as Lauren said, in the county asylum records, and there were 4 for Lancashire. The first one was Lancaster Moor, and I think somebody mentioned that in the chat. That was built in 1816, and we have case books going back to 1821. And then you also end up sort of with Whittingham Asylum in Preston, and then there was Prestwich near Manchester, and then Rainhill near Liverpool. So, as Lauren said, the Rainhill records are at Liverpool. The majority of the Prestwich Asylum records will be at Manchester. We have a small number of case books in our quarter sessions records, but the records that we have are for Whittingham and Lancaster Moor, and they are incredible records. As Lauren said, they're not easy to use, and as I'm sure you can imagine, and it is the case that quite often people will do their family history research and they will find that there was somebody in their family, in their ancestry, who they didn't even know existed, but that they were in an asylum. And so with these records, we're able to kind of help people remember their ancestors, who often were forgotten. And this is a map. So this kind of shows you the extent of some of these hospitals. This is Whittingham Asylum. Whittingham Asylum had its own rail line going to the hospital. A lot of them had their own farms. They had beautiful gardens. They had sports facilities. So while the language is awful and this isn't what we would use today, that is something to bear in mind. But also, I think sometimes some of these records, and what I love about archives, is that it can challenge perceptions, and certainly there was a lot of what we would probably see as cruelty early on in the asylum's history, but there were quite a lot of reform took place over the 19th century, and I found it fascinating that some of these places weren't as awful as I think we do tend to imagine. This is a case book for Lancaster Moor. It is worth remembering, as I said, that that not everything has survived, that actually what we look after is a tiny fraction of all the records ever created. So when you're sort of looking at similar institutions and similar types of records, it's quite common to find records for one institution but not for another. So an example here is that we have the case books for Lancaster Moor, as I said, going back to 1821. We don't have them for Whittingham Asylum. They haven't survived for Whittingham. What we do have for Whittingham are the reception orders, which were the forms that were filled in when somebody was admitted to the hospital. We don't have those for Lancaster Moor. So they're both useful. The case books do sometimes have photographs in them and quite a lot of detail about someone's care, their illness, what they looked like, eye colour, hair colour, that sort of thing. The reception orders are interesting. They will give some information from the person who perhaps completed the form on behalf of the patient, so often a family member who was having them admitted in the hospital. And you can gain quite a lot of information from that, although you won't find photographs. And they have all been individually listed by our volunteers. And so up until the creation of the National Health Service, they are being listed, and you can access these records over 100 years where they contain medical information. Moving on to quarter sessions quickly then. So quarter sessions, this was a court that had two sides to it. It had the judicial side, so if you're looking for people who've been prosecuted for criminal activity, then you will find calendars of prisoners, court in session, things like that, indictments. But they also has an administrative function as well. So you'll find lists or land tax, hair powder tax, various taxation, alehouse recognizances, that sort of thing. They really are a very rich set of records for finding individuals. My particular favourite are the bonds and petitions. They are all individually listed, and you can search for names for those, and that will include records relating to sort of poor law, settlements, removals, the rather horribly titled bastardy orders and that sort of thing. So they are an incredible set of records. Another thing to bear in mind, though, is the further back you go, the more challenging the handwriting and language can be. This is actually in English, and it's early secretary hand. And if you ever get the opportunity to do some paleography, then do take it, because the further back you go, it really can become quite challenging. Moving on to coroner's records. So we have a few early coroner's records from the Coroner's Law of Coroners Act of 1889, but not many of the early records survive sort of before the Public Records Act of 1957. So it can be quite frustrating for people, especially if you get a death certificate and it says that an inquest was held. So what we usually do is, if we don't have the records, then we would point you in the direction of local newspapers where they used to report on inquests in quite a lot of detail, and sometimes more than you would find in the early inquest. The coroner's records for Lancaster and Morecambe came to us through the solicitor, because he kept them as part of his records. And we did a creative writing project with young people looking at some of the records that related to the First World War. And there was a particular case of a ship that had been torpedoed called HMS Champagne. And we discovered some of the sailors on there, and we had a website, and somebody got in touch with us and said that actually one of the sailors who had died was his uncle, and sent us a picture. And I like to use this because it's good to remind us that there were real people behind a lot of these sort of seemingly official records, and it's great when you can find out more about people. Moving on to ecclesiastical or church records. So we are a place of deposit for the Church of England, a diocesan record office. We also have really good collections of Roman Catholic records, also nonconformist, including Society of Friends for Lancaster. And interesting that someone was saying about the records relating to the abolition of slavery, because there's quite a lot in the Lancaster Friends or Quakers relating to the abolition of slavery. We also have those tithe records, which includes the tithe schedules, but also the large tithe maps. And again, the tithe schedules have been indexed and are available to search on our catalogue. And we also have wills for Lancashire, going back to the 16th century, and we had a group of volunteers called the Will Flatteners who came in for over 25 years, making them, flattening them, making them more accessible. And just some examples of the things that you might find. So if you're interested in the fabric of the church, you often find plans and pew rents, and people used to get quite confrontational over pews. Also stained glass windows that were dedicated to people, or memorials within churches. And also, of course, the church warden's account books and the registers of baptisms, marriages and burials. Moving on to official records then. So these are records of the local authorities for Lancashire and include rural districts, urban districts, sanitary authorities and that sort of thing. And we also have the records of Lancashire Constabulary, and that is mostly the records of the police themselves, not necessarily the prosecution of criminals. We have records relating to turnpike roads and also school records for schools in Lancashire. And we also have Poor Law Guardians records. This is another good example of the overlap with Liverpool and Manchester, because we do have records for the Liverpool Juvenile Reformatory, including the Akbar and the Heswall Nautical School. And we also have the Swinton Industrial School records in the Poor Law Guardians record. So it is always worth checking. I would say also in the school records, we do have some school plans. And I grew up in Manchester, and I went to St Paul's School in Withington, and we have the school plan for St Paul's. So it is, it really is worth checking. And even if we don't have original documents, we can point you in the right, in the right direction. We can point you to Liverpool, we can point you to Manchester. So some examples. Bathing beauties, well, this is an indication of that, depending on what local authority you're looking at, depends on types of records you can get. So this is from the Morecambe and Heysham Municipal Borough Collection, and they used to hold the Miss Great Britain competitions at the Super Swimming Stadium. So there's lots of records in there about the women, who they were, what their occupations were, what they did. So and this was quite a popular thing to do back in the 1940s through to the 80s. The Lancashire Constabulary records, as I say, are the staff records themselves, and we have examination books going back to about the start of the Lancashire Constabulary in the 1820s. Often there are pictures, always showing the collar number, because the collar number stayed the same even though the police officer would change. But we have the examination books indexed, and you can access that online, which I will tell you about in a bit. And also, of course, the first women police officers who were appointed. In terms of school records, you'll find admissions registers, log books, punishment books sometimes, records relating to evacuation, for example, during the Second World War. And also in council records, you'll find things like rate books, but also building plans, I think, which have already been mentioned before as well, but then also things to do with public health. And again, this is something that is indicative of the kind of boundary changes, in that we have a large collection of handbills and posters for the Warrington Borough Police, although it's not specific to Warrington Borough, but it is all the posters and handbills that were sent to all the police stations across Lancashire from about 1841 through to the 1860s, and they're very descriptive. And often there are people who are runaway apprentices or are run away from reformatory schools, and it's really fascinating when you get a lot of detail about them. And finally, the privately deposited collection. So this is basically everything else and includes some of the biggest and oldest collections, the family and estate collections, but also businesses in Lancashire, although business records don't always tend to survive. The sort of thing that ends up in a skip once the business is closed. But we are very lucky we have some really good collections. Records of societies, so that could be Masons, Probus, Women's Institute, that sort of thing. Local charities and the sort of philanthropic endeavours of many people. Trade unions, and the textile industry is very heavily represented, as I'm sure you can imagine. Employers associations, I suppose, on the flip side of that, and then just records of individuals. We on our 75th anniversary, we had a bit of fun with the kind of 1940s aspect, and we had some of the reenactors who came along, and somebody said, would you be interested in my grandfather's Gallipoli War diaries? He was from Lancashire, and that's the kind of thing that, you know, we get all the time, and sometimes political papers as well. We do have some photographic collections. In terms of purely photographic collections, we have the Edward Miller collection. He was an industrialist from Bolton who spent his leisure time going around the world taking photographs and then presenting them to the Manchester Geographical Society. And they're not of Lancashire, but they are an interesting look of the perspective of the rest of the world. Family albums. We have a lot of those in some of the family and estate collections, but also just individuals. This is again from the Edward Miller collection. We also have a group of glass plate negatives for the Fleetwood Fishing Vessels Owners Association. And there are lots of photographs of fishermen at work in the 1920s, and that is an industry that then went into decline, so they're a really important record. Also for Lancaster and Morecambe, we have photographic collections by a man called Sam Thompson. So a little bit like Lauren was saying about Liverpool, where you have photographs of the area, it's really good to kind of get an idea of what it was like when your ancestors were there. And particularly in terms of fishing, you have these for Fleetwood, but also in the Sam Thompson records, you have a lot of photographs of fishermen from Morecambe and Heysham and Sunderland Point. Variety as well. Lancashire has an incredible history in terms of theatre and variety, and that's represented in the records. And if your ancestors were thespians, then you may even find them in some of the programmes. Here are some examples of the kind of things you might find, including Harry Houdini, who stayed in Burnley at a theatrical boarding house. And then we do have some political papers. I just noticed briefly in the chats that somebody had asked about records relating to suffragettes. Incredibly hard to find it. They don't tend to survive, but we do have an absolutely amazing collection relating to this lady, Selina Cooper, who was a suffragist with Millicent Fawcett, and who just kept everything. It's just the most extraordinary collection, and there are letters in there from the Pankhursts, to name a few. And this is Edith Rigby, who lived on Winkley Square in Preston and who was a suffragette, and is famous for planning to blow up Lord Leverhulme's house. We also have lots of scrapbooks. This is a scrapbook of a woman called Beatrice Blackhurst, who again was involved in the suffrage movement, and she kept a lot of the records that she had at the time. And then we also have the Preston Labour Party, but also Elaine Kellett-Bowman, a Conservative MP for Lancaster, and then other political parties as well. So there's a lot of stuff. And this rather wonderful advert, who knew that you'd need shapely shoes. And then in the family estate collections, you will find diaries. When you see, this picture of the wigs, you can see why they taxed the hair powder, and where the name Big Wig comes from. And also a lot of the kind of big family and estate collections. We've got the Earls of Derby, Heskeths of Rufford, Townleys of Townley. There's a long list, and a lot of them will have pre-existing pedigrees. And they also include some of the oldest records that we have. This is an illuminated manuscript from Cartmel Priory. And then in terms of some of the business records that we have, I've mentioned in the public records, we do have the National Coal Board. It's not very well listed, but we are doing things and with volunteers to try and make those records more accessible, especially things like pensions and widows records and various other things. And also advertising, but as I say, you may find wages books, details of what your ancestor may have earned. So it's always worth looking at, but it is very hit and miss with business records. And sometimes you get photographs. So this is the inside of Horrocks's Cruton and Company's a huge mill, centenary mill in Preston. So as well as all the sort of archive material, we have the Lancashire printed collection and in the local history libraries, but also in our search room. And it's very similar to a lot of what other people have talked about in terms of trade directories, all the resources for doing researching family history, but also things just related to local history as well, and different industries, different areas, different towns and villages. And they're all on our library catalogue, which you can search online. So also, if you go onto the Lancashire County Council website, you will find under Archives and Libraries, we have the digital library, and there's lots of resources on there that are useful for family history. So once you click on the digital library, you'll get this menu, and within that is family and local history. And then that will give you a list of resources, including ancestry. So if you're in Lancashire or if you're in a Lancashire library, then you can access Ancestry Institution for free, and also find my past, and also newspapers online. What we also have is our Red Rose collections, which includes indexes to the police records that we have, and the examination books. We also have access to newspapers that are in our libraries, but also Preston Guild roll lists. So if anybody knows about the Preston Guild, every 20 years. We also have the library's photographic collection as well on Red Rose. And we also have publications. We have our free newsletter, News from the Archives, but also we have we now publish Archives, which is a local history magazine, but can also be people's research into particular stories in their ancestry. And in terms of accessing the collections, you just need an archive card, an ARA archives card, which you can apply for online, and everything else is fairly standard at most archives. And the best thing to do, I think, probably is to email us. We do ask you to book in advance, and there is a booking form on the website. But if you were to turn up, we wouldn't, and there was space, we wouldn't turn you away. And we've just launched our new online catalogue, our new Lancat Part 2. So please do have a look at that. That includes all our archive collections, and is a much more intuitive way of searching the collections, hopefully, but we are looking for feedback. And in terms of that overlap, it's always really good to have a look at the National Archives Discovery Catalogue, because this is what used to be Access to Archives, for those of you who remember that. So it is a national database, and so you can search for organisations or people, and it will show you, if it's something that's in Liverpool, it'll show you that it's in Liverpool. But then if we have some records, then it will show them together. So that's really useful. And we have a friends group who are able to buy lots of records and do incredible things and support volunteer projects. Our latest volunteer project is to index the Poor Law Union minute books to find names of individuals, because we don't often have a lot of workhouse records that survive. And you can follow us on social media. And that is the end. I hope that's been useful. There's a lot to talk about.
So next we're going to have a short video by Sarah Rose, who is a research associate at Lancaster University, where she has worked on the Victoria County History of Cumbria project since 2010.
Hello, my name is Sarah Rose and I'm the county editor for the Victoria County History of Cumbria project. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today, so this is a pre-recorded talk in which I hope to provide you with some information about the Victoria County History, or VCH for short, and how it can help family historians in Lancashire. Now, I've just said that I am from the VCH Cumbria project, and that's because the Victoria County History for Lancashire was completed a long time ago. But as VCH projects are organised on the basis of modern counties, those places that were once in Lancashire before 1974, namely Furness and the Cartmel Peninsulas, fall within the remit of the modern VCH Cumbria project. So first of all, what is the VCH? I don't want to go into too much detail about the origins of the VCH and how things stand nationally, as this was covered really well in a talk given by my colleague at VCH Central Office, Dr. Ruth Slatter. Suffice to say that the VCH was established in 1899, making it one of the longest running national projects of its kind. Its aim was to produce a work of reference that covered the history of every place in England from prehistoric times to the present day. It gets its name from the fact that it was dedicated to Queen Victoria. The project was a national one, but the work was organised and undertaken on a county-by-county basis, and that remains the case to this day, with guidance and editorial support provided by the Central Office team based at the University of London. The County of Lancashire was amongst the first to get the VCH treatment in the form of 8 big red books. These were produced thanks to the efforts of the great antiquary William Farrer and his indefatigable co-editor John Brownbill. They cover the history of every place in the county and were published between 1906 and 1914. Like all VCH county histories from this era, the first 2 volumes are thematic, with one covering topics like natural history, the regional economy, and the other, the history of religious houses in the county. The other 6 volumes contain the place-based histories, organised around the 100 divisions of the county, so West Derby, Salford, Leyland, Blackburn, Amounderness, and Lonsdale south of the Sands and Lonsdale north of the Sands. You can access the published volumes at reference libraries. We have them here on the shelves at Lancaster University Library, and members of the public are welcome to come in and consult them. Alternatively, you can view the information within these books from the comfort of your own home via the British History Online's website. If you go to Browse Catalogue, you will find Victoria County History volumes under there. You just need to scroll down to the county that you want. You'll then be presented with a list of all the volumes for that county. British History Online has all but the first volume for Lancashire, so you'll select which volume you want, and then you can choose to look at the places covered in that volume. The text within these articles is the same as in the books, it's just formatted differently, and there may be fewer images due to copyright. But the online version does have the benefit of being able to search the text quickly if you're looking for keywords or names. All VCH volumes follow a standard national template, although that template has changed over time. Because VCH Lancashire was published so early, the content of its township histories follows an older format that is more limited in subject range than what more modern VCH publications will cover. So VCH Lancashire very much focuses on institutions such as the Manor and the Church of England, with a tendency to prioritise naming landowners. More recent VCH work considers the social and economic context more fully, the built environment and nonconformist history, with increasing emphasis on ordinary people and their contribution to that place's history. Because of the disparity between the old and new VCH templates, it's been a long-term aim of the VCH Cumbria project to revise the entries for Furness and Cartmel within Lancashire Volume 8. The VCH Cumbria project was established in 2010 and relies on a collaboration between Cumbria County History Trust, who fundraise for the project and look after our project website, Lancaster University, which is where I and the academic support is based, and our network of VCH volunteers who are scattered throughout the county. Based on the work of one of our volunteers, we recently published our first red book, which covers the southeast corner of Westmoreland around Kirkby Lonsdale. We're now starting work in earnest on Eskdale Ward, which lies in Cumberland on the border with Scotland, and on revising that part of Lancashire covering Furness and Cartmel. We very much rely on our project volunteers to help with the research and writing of the 348 articles needed to cover the whole of Cumbria. We're always delighted to hear from new volunteers, especially if you have interests in Furness and Cartmel. So if you might be able to help, please get in touch. But how might the VCH help your family history research? I think there are 4 ways in which it can do this. Firstly, VCH entries provide detailed accounts of the historic context in which your ancestor may have lived and worked, including details of local organisations and institutions. So it's a great source for that kind of background information and even allows the comparison of communities and experiences. Second, while the VCH does focus on institutions and communities as a whole, there are plenty of named individuals in these volumes with details about their lives. It's always worth looking at the index for the names of people you may be interested in. Women will likely be mentioned less often than men in older volumes, but more modern texts are aiming to strike more of a balance in that regard. Thirdly, the VCH is a work of reference and draws upon a vast number of sources, some of which are also useful for family history, such as wills and probate inventories, school and business records, poor law records, local newspapers, census records, published county pedigrees, and publications by local and regional history societies. Even if source material is not fully reproduced in VCH articles, it's always worth checking the footnotes, as you can follow these up yourself. Given the age of the VCH Lancashire volumes, some of those references might be out of date, so you'll need to find the modern form. But some of them may well have been digitised and made available on websites like British History Online. And finally, in the case of research active counties like Cumbria, we may be the source of information ourselves. Our volunteers may be working on somewhere that links with a person or place you are interested in, so it's worth getting in touch to ask. Our project website has links to historical sources, as well as information about individual places. On there, you'll also find our volunteer handbook, which has information on how to go about researching place-based histories and what sources to look at. We also hold training events, focusing on how to interact and get the most from your source material. These are often run in collaboration with other regional organisations and are usually open to the public, not just for VCH volunteers. So please check out the Cumbria County History Trust website. Feel free to reach out via email, and you can also keep up to date by signing up for the project newsletter and via social media. Thank you.
And the next speaker is Paula Orcott, who is a senior research associate at the University of Portsmouth and contributor to the local history website, A Vision of Britain Through Time. Over to you, Paula. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our website, which is all about places. It's not about individual people. So it's designed to give you information about the place that your ancestor lived and help you understand what it was like in the past. You can search using a place name or a postcode, and the information we have available is descriptions from old place, from text written in the past, statistics, and old maps. So this is the current homepage of the website. You can see at the top there's a banner with a search box in it. That search box is available throughout the pages of the website, and you can change your search at any time. In the middle there is a general search box. So you type your place name or your postcode into that. And if you have a place name that's quite popular, you'll see there'll be a list of ones that match. So today my example is going to be Bolton. And as you can see, I've got 10 options available, and I'm going to go for the first one, which is Bolton in Lancashire. And this takes me to the place homepage for Bolton. Now, if the place name I typed in was unique, it would take me directly to this page and skip the previous page. This page is designed to work in two ways. It's a stepping stone to further information within the website, but it's also designed to give you information straight away. On the right-hand side, there is an outline map of the UK, and there's a marker indicating where in the country the place is. And underneath, there is a short historical description, and you've also got links to nearby places which take you to a place page for those smaller places. So if we look at the entry for the Historical Gazetteer by John Bartholomew, you can click on the further information, and this expands the entry so you can read what the whole entry says. We actually have 2 historical gazetteers in the system, so it will show you the most appropriate one depending on what you're looking at. So you read this and you think, what else can I find? So if you click on the button for the historical writing, this takes you to our page about what other historical writing we have. At the top are the entries that are about the place, so they're about Bolton from the Imperial Gazetteer and Bartholomew's Gazetteer. Underneath there is a list of places that also have links to Bolton. I've actually curtailed it because it's a very long list for Bolton. And underneath that, right at the bottom, there's a list of travellers who travelled around the country in the past and wrote about their experiences of the places they visited. And I'm going to use that as an example now. So if we went to Daniel Defoe and clicked on the link to his writing, you'll see that it'll take you directly to the first time that he mentions Bolton in his writing. You'll see there's a little number 5 for the number of references, and that's the number of times he refers to Bolton. You can also see that the word Bolton is a hyperlink, and as are the other place pages on that in that text. So you've got Manchester, you've got Wigan, you've got Ormskirk, and clicking on any other one of those links will take you to the place homepage for that place. Each set of text also has a little outline map with the blue dots that show you all the places that he references in this section of text. So what else can we find? So if we go back to the place page, you'll see we have a button for maps, and this takes you into our historical map library. Now you see the map window is centered on Bolton, and it's and the map window you can use to pan and zoom around. Underneath, you can see there's a list. You can just see the top of a list of map sheets. Now, this list underneath will update as you pan and zoom the map window. So it'll always show you the maps that we have that are the most appropriate in terms of scale and location to what you are seeing in the map window. We don't have really detailed information about street plans and things. It is much more area maps. The one exception to that is this example, which I show you here, which is from the Boundary Commission reports. But as you can see, it doesn't have any street names on it. But you get to this by just clicking on the little thumbnails in the list on the previous page, and it opens up a new tab showing you the entire map sheet, and you can pan and zoom this map sheet, but it means you can look at the key, if there's any information written in the margins, so to give you a bit more idea. Okay, so what else? So if we go back to the place page and click on the related websites button, this takes you to a page where there are other websites that have information about the place that you're interested in. So in this case, Bolton. These websites cover the whole country like we do. And if you click on any one of these links, it will take you to the page in that website that is about Bolton. You'll see we have two tabs. We have Bolton and we have locations nearby. The locations nearby are for sites that have a slightly more general approach. So things like Geograph and National Library of Scotland maps. So what else? The final thing I can tell you about is the statistics, and we use these in two ways. Firstly, if you click on the Bolton through time underneath your gazetteer entry, you get to information about the modern local authority. So in this case, it's Bolton District. As you can see, there is again an outline map, but you've also got statistical themes, and underneath you've got the information about the unit of Bolton. So for example, today we're going to use population as our example. And if you click on the theme, you get a list of, firstly, rate graphs showing trends. And underneath that, we have a list of statistical data sets. And for today, we're going to use total population. So you click on that and you get a chart showing the population of Bolton from 1801 through to 2021. That's the chart view. You can also look at the numbers that we provide, that we use to create the graph, and the information about where we got the information from. Now, obviously, the modern district of Bolton did not exist in 1801. It's much more modern. But the idea is that we provide this range through time by doing a redistribution of statistics. So they are estimates, but they're good estimates. You might decide that you want to know the original figures. So we can provide that too. So if you click on the final button, which is units and statistics, it takes you to a list of all of the administrative units that are associated with Bolton. And at the top, we have the modern units, and you can see they all have the extended tag next to them, which means that they have the through time series, like we just saw for the district. And they were ordered with the smallest units first to getting geographically spatially bigger. And underneath that, we have all the historical units. So for Bolton, we've got the registration district, which recorded the population from 1801 through to 1911. Now, the registration district is the urban area plus the surrounding rural area. And you'll see that the graph on the left has a much higher total population by the end than the graph on the right, which starts in 1911. And this is because the local government district, which was the municipal borough and then later a county borough, was a much smaller area. It covered the urban area only, and the rural surrounding area was a different unit. So because of these differences in the administrative units, that's why we provide the extended period through extended through time series, so that you can see how a place has changed much more easily. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Paula. I'll just pause the recording at that point. Thank you very much indeed for all of our speakers and for all of our attendees today. We had lots and lots of questions in the chat, many of which have been answered by our speakers within the chat. But I think, Kelly, you're going to try and do a quick little roundup, aren't you, or a little summary?
Just briefly for those who catch this on a recording, and most of the questions, not all, but most of them were about where to find information for very specific places or periods of time or record sets. And I just wanted to say that if you ask the wrong archive, they will still very kindly and generously lead you to the correct archive that you should approach. And I'm sure the same is very true for the family history societies. So if you've got questions about where to find things, start wherever you feel you can connect easily, and they will help you. I'm sorry that we can't go through all of the questions, but our speakers are very generous with their time, and they will be outside of this recording as well.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you again to Elsa, Susan, Lauren, Carol, Vicky, Sarah and Paula, and to all of our attendees, and including some of our attendees who put helpful suggestions in the chat as well. Thank you all, and I will stop the recording at this point.